Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello from Redmond, Washington. It's my pleasure to have Dan from Tenfold and Glenton, counterpart of mine in our business development team, to talk all things Tenfold. So welcome, Dan. Welcome, Glenton, to our LinkedIn Live show that we attempt to try to do every Monday.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Brian.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. So before we get started, I guess one thing we'll do is we'll do intros. And for those of you who, of course, are watching from all over the world, we'd love to get your comments in the window. We'll give a shout out to people who actually are listening from around the world. We probably don't have everyone from Asia, but we probably definitely have people in Europe, and we probably definitely have people in the US. And you actually might be from Texas. And so one of the ways we're going to get started, not to kind of focus on just all the things that are happening in Texas, but Dan actually and his team from Tenfold is actually from Austin. And so as we do intros, we can kind of get his perspective as to all the things that he has been personally and his team has been personally faced with. And then we'll do intros from Glenton as well. So Dan, why don't you go ahead and kick us off and give us a little background of yourself and also your experience living through this natural catastrophe that the world has probably been watching in regards to what's been happening in Texas.
Sure. I'll try to condense 7 days into like 30 seconds on that front. But my name's Dan. I'm one of the co-founders and COO at a company called Tenfold. Been focused on the customer engagement space for the greater part of the last decade. As Brian mentioned, the team's headquartered here in Austin, Texas. So the last week has been an interesting one for all of us, to say the least. But I think what struck me the most about going through this, because we had several team members that lost power or water for upwards of 3 or 4 days in freezing temperatures, was the level of empathy and understanding from partners and customers, which not to say we've gone through the exact thing that we went through the last week before, but we've definitely gone through situations where people have had, challenges in different parts of the globe. And I think after everything that the world's been through over the last few years, there's just kind of a change in how people engage in these types of circumstances. So, from myself and from the team, thank you to everybody who reached out and asked us how we were doing, and also kind of understood that the team was a little bit impacted over the last couple of days without power and water and such.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dan, for sharing the story.
Yeah.
So, Glenton, why don't you do a quick introduction?
Sure. So I'm Glenton. I look after business development and strategy for Dynamics 365 customer service, our omni-channel add-on to customer service, as well as field service. And I had the great pleasure of architecting alongside Dan and the team at Tenfold a strategic partnership that allows our two organizations to really link arms, right, as we think about the next generation of customer engagement, not just across voice and omni-channel engagements, but also conversation intelligence. So I'm really glad to be here, and what Dan was talking about the importance of empathy and humanism, right, in terms of how we think about business and engaging one another going forward. It's almost it almost feels cosmic, right? Like these are the products that we're talking about at the same time, in the way in which they can empower some of the things that Dan was talking about.
No, thanks, Glenton, for sharing that story. I mean, it has been a great partnership across the business development team, and Jessica, who's part of my team, driving that dialogue with Dan. And so, Dan, before we get started and talking about Tenfold, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we just talked about Texas, but tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how got started. And I think one of the things that I will share as commonalities that I realized when I got a chance to meet Dan and look at his profiles, we're both from Oregon, and we love the Oregon Ducks. And I don't know if you see my little duck helmet. Actually, it's right here. So my Oregon Duck helmet. So that's one thing we share in common. And Dan's family lives in Portland. Same with mine. So it's one of those apropos things that we share. World's a small place, and we share that in common. So Dan, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of background of yourself and how you got started at Tenfold?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background was predominantly kind of operational in sales and sales leadership. And then I had started a prior company in kind of digital real estate brokerage. And I had the experience of the problem that I think sales and service companies have of disconnected systems and not having great visibility into, customer conversations within the core systems that they're using, how that translates into marketing decisions and decisions related really to kind of the overall operations of the business. But I hadn't really come up with a concept of how to solve it yet. Was just living with the problem, and had the great fortune of meeting a couple of people who were much smarter than I was at the time, who had embarked on a journey to start solving this problem of how do we kind of connect communication platforms to the applications that we use to store data and manage customer relationships. So that was 6 years ago. It's been a long, journey since then of multiple moves, like you said, from Oregon to Austin, and the team came together down here. And we've really kind of moved from solving what we thought was, a problem that really only faced small and medium-sized businesses to something that's prolific even in the largest companies in the world. And that's where, one of the reasons that we're most excited about the partnership with Microsoft is the ability to help solve this problem on a global scale.
No, thanks, Dan, for sharing that. That's great. So I think that's a great segue into what does Tenfold do? And what are the outcomes that we solve together? Because you mentioned marketing, you mentioned sales. So for those of you who know nothing about Tenfold, give us a little kind of a background on the organization and what we actually try to solve. And then Glenton will kind of then start to talk about the experience and all those things. So
sure. Yeah. So at the heart of what we do, Tenfold is all about helping companies have better conversations with customers. And, the way that we attack that is through the lens of just trying to make life easier for customer service reps and sales reps. When life is easy for customer service agents and sales reps, they can provide a better experience for customers, which ultimately translates into, less wasted time for businesses, more revenue and opportunity, and building better relationships with those customers. And the way that we achieve that is by taking kind of the traditional ways in which you communicate with customers. So think, the last time that you called a contact center for, some reason, maybe it was your cell phone bill or your, cable company, or, in Austin more recently, probably your spiking utility bill from the recent power surge that we saw here. And a lot of times those can be frustrating experiences. I think the challenge is we tend to, in that moment, like take that frustration out on the one manifestation of that brand, which is the agent that we're talking to on the other end of the conversation. But a lot of times we don't stop and empathize and think, what tools do they have to serve and meet our needs? And have they really been equipped to efficiently serve us? And so a lot of what we're doing at Tenfold is how we can connect those conversations to applications like Dynamics. So when people call into the contact center, they immediately know, hey, I'm talking to Glenton Davis. Glenton recently ordered this particular product from our company. I can click here to pull up tracking information because I have a feeling he's calling because the shipment was impacted by the recent weather event, and really kind of unifying that in one place so they can focus on the things that people are innately good at, like empathy and understanding human need and kind of providing quality service and building relationships versus looking up information and manually logging data and systems.
No, thanks, Dan. Yeah, and that hits the heart to the customer journey, the customer experience, because who doesn't want to call a call center and not be known and have to repeat all this information and the gymnastics that a call center agent has to do to go, well, can I put you on hold and let me go to all these 5 different or 20 different systems to try to find you? That's the type of thing that's great to hear, that, of course, the journey that you've had with us, as well as how you help to complement other partners in this ecosystem to make sure that we can deliver on that customer journey, the customer experience, not just in sales, but in customer service. Or more the other way around. When people think call centers, the number one thing they think about is it's customer service.
Yeah.
But it's great that you commented on the fact that it's not just customer service, but it is a call center, and there's outbound sales or inbound sales that could be occurring where Tenfold can actually make a huge impact and difference.
Yeah, I mean, especially with COVID and the rise of work from home and e-commerce, there's a huge kind of slowdown of face-to-face interactions and visits to stores. So much of what we do is happening remote and over the phone, whether it's sales or service or telehealth or other types of social services.
That's great.
Yeah. And so,
yeah.
I was thinking if you think it makes sense, Brian, that maybe we can talk about, what this means between Tenfold and Microsoft, right? Like the question that's top of mind for me is like, let's talk about the deal. What do you think?
Yeah, no, exactly. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Like, because talk about all the orchestration that you were working with within our various teams. You can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a great story to tell, Dan, in regards to what has the journey been like for you, and not as a outsider, maybe the wrong word, but someone who hasn't been in the Microsoft partner ecosystem, and now being thrust into this dialogue and conversation, and the opportunities and the experience you've had so far. That you could just kind of share that story.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So Jeff, our CEO, was formerly at Rackspace, who's a big Microsoft partner, and I think he certainly recognized and understood the opportunity that exists in working with and alongside the Microsoft team. For us as a company, like, we're an integration platform at heart. So our entire business is built on partnerships with communication providers and partnerships with people who build business applications like Microsoft Dynamics. And I think, typically the partnership kind of starts with the people. We've been blown away, quite frankly, at, Jessica on Brian's team, and Glenton and Brian yourself, and kind of the broader Microsoft group, at just the level at which you care and invest in the partnership ecosystem, which I think speaks volumes for how Microsoft as a company is sort of aligning and investing to enable and empower the team to go out and build this type of an ecosystem around it. So for us, it's been, pretty unique for the types of partnerships that we have, and spanning, go-to-market and product alignment, strategic collaboration on some of the vision areas that, Microsoft sees, things that we don't even know with the breadth of products that Microsoft offers exist. So just help navigating that kind of large global footprint of AI and machine learning capabilities and cloud and identity management and all of those things that kind of ultimately play into what we're doing. So it's been great so far. We're super excited about the journey ahead, but really just appreciate the team and what you guys have done for us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been it's been a pleasure, right? It's been fantastic. For folks who might be listening, Dan, I'm wondering if we can talk about, what we're actually doing across product, right? I think what's really exciting is, how our teams have worked together to figure out how to make it really easy, right, for Tenfold in Microsoft to empower customers, right, end customers, as well as agents across customer service, as well as your integration platform. Can you talk to us a little bit about, how we thought about this from the product side?
Yeah, absolutely. So, from a product perspective, like, Dynamics is this hugely powerful platform that allows you to take what used to be tons of disparate data sources and kind of bring them together in a single interface for customer service agents or salespeople. But the missing glue was kind of connecting that into customer conversations. Because it's easy to unify data about a person, but it's harder to know, hey, this is Brian calling in, pull up all of this relevant context about Brian so I can better meet and serve his needs. So I think the core of what we're working on together is really helping enable that omni-channel customer engagement hub by giving Microsoft and its customers and partners the ability to integrate dozens of different communication platforms directly into that experience. So whether you're using kind of older on-premise technology like Avaya and Cisco and Genesys, or if you're looking to modernize and move to the cloud, or like most companies, probably stuck somewhere in between with a foot in each camp. Tenfold gives you that kind of single way to connect everything. So you have one consistent experience across all of those different applications. And then the second piece of that, which I'm super excited about, is not just the experience for the agent when you're calling in and how that information kind of manifests, so I know who I'm talking to and I know their order history and I can serve them, but it's all of the data and insights that businesses get based on having that interaction embedded in the system. So typically people would be operating out of 3 or 4 different applications to manage that interaction. They can now do so entirely from Dynamics, but Tenfold is now helping them capture all of the data to say, when did the call happen? What marketing number or customer service number did the person call to reach the contact center or sales team? How long did the conversation last? Was someone transferred or put on hold? What's the call recording and the transcript from that call recording? And how does that now get integrated into all of the great kind of AI and insights capabilities that exist across the Microsoft platform.
Awesome. Yeah. And so like when I think about this partnership from the product side, what makes me really excited is that it's like single pane of glass, right? And together we're delivering a ton of context within that single pane of glass that I think will, to everyone's point, really enrich, the service provider experience across service as well as sales, but also the customer experience too. So I'm excited for that. And for those who are listening, stay tuned. We've done some announcements about this, back at Ignite in September 2020, but you'll see more from us in the coming weeks ahead about how we're working together across the product side on these innovations. Why don't we switch to go-to-market, right? We've talked about product and, we're really excited about what we can do there, but let's talk about, the ways in which we're going to market together and how that's been.
Yeah, absolutely. So the relationship on our side, I think even initiated, or at least, we started to have these product conversations based on joint customer traction. Yeah. So one of the clients that Microsoft and Tenfold jointly served starting last year is a large Fortune 100 technology company, 10,000 plus agents across every corner of the globe, serving B2B and B2C businesses with internal agents and external agents, and basically as much complexity as you could, imagine in any type of contact center environment. And the struggle is that getting to that single pane of glass, as you mentioned, right? Multiple different applications, disconnected systems. So the value that customers like that are seeing are things like, eliminating those disparate systems so that they have that single pane of glass, reducing average handle time by 20, 30, 45 seconds per call so they can spend that time focused on serving customers instead of manually looking up or capturing data and systems. And I think for that particular customer, if you think about just the workflow and the steps and clicks and screens and searches involved in serving a customer when they call in, anywhere from 30 to a little bit over 50% of those steps reduced depending on the line of business and the type of call. Again, just kind of making it much more simple and intuitive for them to serve customer needs. And so on the go-to-market side, we've been able to take success like that and all of the work we're doing together on the product front to really get tightly integrated into your go-to-market organizations globally, whether that's support from your team on things like marketing content. Tenfold's a small company. We're certainly not Microsoft. And so our marketing content can, at times not be the greatest, which is kind, to say the least. Scrappy. We'll use Scrappy. Yeah. So having, Microsoft leaning in and kind of understanding the use case and the needs and how to connect that into what your customers are looking for from you, whether that's connected service experiences or, kind of always on service or integrated into AI and insights for sales organizations, has been, really helpful from us at kind of getting some scale and how we can connect what we're doing as Tenfold to the needs that your go-to-market organization and their customers and partners are finding in the market.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for that. And what's been really great about this is, we've been starting with the customer, right? And all the things that we've done across product as well as go-to-market. And I think that's been super powerful because we learn at the product level, but we also learn at the value prop level, right? How to get the best kind of synergies across this partnership in ways that empower our customers and our partners. So that's been really, really great. Dan's talked a lot about our field organizations because our field organizations have been really, really excited about this. And so for those of you who are on the phone and might know like the business applications field, this is something that, we've been working together on in a very programmatic way inside of the organization to make sure that our field is ready, to help customers and to help partners through this partnership. Let's talk a little bit about ISV Connect, right? We've talked about our top-down channel in terms of our field organizations, but let's talk about the second channel, which kind of manifests as Microsoft AppSource on the web, but as a program we call that ISV Connect. Dan, do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the ISV Connect program for us, first off, we were super pleased at the kind of ability to join and the support that we've gotten from the team at every kind of turn we've had to make there.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, beyond some of the strategic product collaboration, it's really served as kind of the framework for us on partnering with Microsoft in general. Yeah. So to me, It's like, there's a app source component of it, of, you know, how do you get your listing out in the marketplace? But there's all of these other, it's almost like the blueprint for how do you effectively bring a solution to market with Microsoft jointly. If you think about all of the ancillary things that you're doing and working on in between, it's all kind of through the lens of supporting those customer opportunities. So we've been, you know, surprised. Again, I mentioned Tenfold's not a huge company. It's not like we have the global sales footprint that Microsoft, or the global partner ecosystem that Microsoft has out in the market. And so getting on AppSource and being able to engage with your partner and field sales teams in places like, you know, Iceland or Malaysia, you know, are places that we're typically not, you know, doing direct marketing in, but there are businesses that need these types of solutions here. So it's kind of helped us achieve that level of global scale and collaboration without having that same footprint on our side. And in ISV Connect, I guess I saw is all of the sort of requirements to get us to that point to be able to realize value from them.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah. And Brian's put up a link to the Tenfold solution that's on AppSource. So for those of you who are tuning in, have a look at the hyperlink that Brian's put into the window, so you can see exactly, you know, what Tenfold is all about and what the actual solution is. And then what we're talking about, AppSource, right, is the marketplace that we use commercially within the business applications organization in order to surface great solutions like this.
And I do, as we're talking about this, you know, just a thought came to mind, but it's rare that a company like Tenfold, we're, you know, startup, we're small, we're nimble. I recall like numerous times over the last couple of months where we've had to slow Microsoft down on like iterations around the partnership, right? Because it, you know, you guys are actually moving so quickly on how you're sort of supporting and bringing in team members to help build this out. So we've greatly appreciated that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. To me, it's really about the marriage of, you know, kind of strategic activity that plays out programmatically. And I think it's been that nice symbiosis between both that I've really loved about this engagement in particular.
Yeah, I totally agree. Glenton and Dan, thanks for sharing the story too, because you think about that journey, and you can maybe share that length of time, because I seem to recall like we started this dialogue, Glenton, when you reached out and said, "Hey, I have this dialogue that's starting to happen with Tenfold and bringing in Jessica." And that timing, it happened within months. I mean,
it was really fast. And so it was super fast, and I really appreciate Jessica for that, and I appreciate your team, Brian, for that, and Tenfold, because for folks on the line who, you know, have maybe worked with large organizations on strategic partnerships, sometimes these cycles can take years.
That's right.
And so, you know, and we got, you know, we kind of got up and running here. And Brian's right, weeks, maybe a couple months. Like, it was really fast. And what I have been most proud of and excited about here is the way in which we're moving at the velocity of work, right? When I think about customer engagement and I think about the structural trends that we've all had to navigate because of COVID, that's required us to very quickly adapt, very quickly adjust, very quickly pivot. And this partnership has moved at that pace, if not faster. And so you're going to see Tenfold and Microsoft together, right, talking about a number of things that will continue to help organizations and the people who work with them and the people who engage them, even as we get to whatever this next normal is.
That's right. And you got a nice shout out, Dan, from a listener, Wanderley. I know who he is because he helps, of course, a lot of programmatic things within Microsoft and EMEA. So he wanted to wish you congratulations and welcome to the program.
Global scale, awesome. Like there, see?
There we go. Yeah, no, we appreciate it. Thank you, Wanderley.
Yeah. So I guess before we wrap up, I mean, please, for the people listening, if you have questions while we still are going to go live probably for the next few more minutes. If you have a question that you want to ask about Tenfold and either their experience or in particular, like the outcomes that they help deliver that we're talking about, please don't hesitate to put it in the LinkedIn comments and I'll flash it up here to give us an opportunity to definitely address them. So one thing too, Dan, when you think about the opportunity, because you touched on it with either legacy partners or kind of born in the cloud partners, that is such a great opportunity because you're the foundation that allows those partners to really hook into a business application Dynamics experience. So how has that been like getting interactions? Because that's the other benefit that of course partners see in working closely with us. It's not just working with the Microsoft selling teams, as Glenton mentioned, but it's also the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Microsoft partners that also deliver that, not just from other ISVs, but also SIs, software that help to deploy that. So can you kind of share what your experience has been on the kind of what we refer to as partner to partner, just getting exposed to partners who are actually implement call center or sales scenarios, or ISVs who are in those scenarios where they need to have the foundation of Tenfold to make the things that you were describing and Glenn is describing work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely have kind of taken advantage of Microsoft's ability to connect us to that partner ecosystem. And I think the way that, Microsoft delivers solutions, because there's such a breadth of capabilities, which is unique when you think about the space to Microsoft, that you're not just talking about CRM, like you're talking about cloud consumption and AI and collaboration and kind of the whole suite of products. A lot of the partner ecosystem is able to help tell that consolidated story of, not just how do we deliver a product in a silo, but how do we really transform the way that you work across your entire operations. We've benefited from, the ability to engage some of those systems integrator partners, like you've said, at a global scale, where they can take Tenfold's product and wrap service delivery and pre-sales capacity and just a much broader reach in the market around it to help us achieve more scale than we could by ourselves. And it sort of all comes together in a symbiotic relationship, like you mentioned, between Tenfold having kind of a great product and expertise in a particular area, Microsoft having an incredible breadth of offerings in the market, and these SIs knowing how to piece it all together to make something work for a customer. So that's been a huge part of the value that we've seen to date. And, beyond just that existing in Microsoft's ecosystem, folks like Glenton and Jessica and, Tom on your CSM or your customer service organization have really helped us navigate who the right partners are. Instead of looking at a list of 300 saying like, here's the 5 or 6 that really align well with the types of use cases that you're delivering for clients in areas of productivity and customer experience and data and AI insights around customer conversations.
Yeah, it's great. It sounds like there's there's high touch engagement from across the company, because I do know that often when you're entering into large ecosystems, right, Microsoft's partner ecosystem is one of the largest on the planet, right, that often it takes that extra step of curation in order to really successfully navigate and also derive value from it. And so it's nice to hear, right, that as part of this partnership, you're getting that from all parts of the company, right? This, inside of Microsoft, we talk a lot about one Microsoft and how we show up as one company, no matter what function we work in or what product we serve. It's nice to hear that that's been your experience.
Yeah, and I think what's been unique too is Microsoft's focus on leading with value. Like a lot of other relationships, we've gotten the partnership in place, but the onus has sort of been put solely on a smaller company to get that momentum and make something happen. And I think Microsoft, in many ways, there's momentum, but it's taking that leap of faith to make a outsized investment in a company's success on the front end, which I've felt like is unique compared to a lot of the partner relationships that we've had in the past.
Awesome. Fantastic. Oh, I love it. Appreciate that, Dan. Thanks for all these kind words. I'm so glad.
Like, wow, great.
You're definitely filling the full value across the entire ecosystem. Before we wrap it up, actually, Jessica, of course, you work very closely with her. She actually asked a really good questions that you can kind of share. So what are the metrics you've seen improve? Like, we're talking about customer outcomes, and of course, because of the pandemic and some of the things that have maybe not forced, but accelerated the transformation that organizations have to have. Like, what have you seen so far, and like the story you shared, or just in general through kind of the experience so far? Like, what's the outcome that people are seeing through this innovation that Tenfold's bringing with Dynamics and Microsoft business applications?
Yeah, so I mean, early on, it was less metric oriented of kind of a yes or no, like can you continue your critical business operations in a remote working environment, right? So companies had to shift, people went home, and a lot of that critical infrastructure wasn't super set up to move people remote. So Tenfold kind of helped layer on top of those legacy platforms and deliver a work from home experience where, sales leaders were no longer 5 feet away from their sales reps and could listen in on their calls and, help tell them what to say the next time that an objection comes up. Now they have all that information in Dynamics, even though their rep might be sitting, 1,000 miles away. On the customer service side, and generally, once we get past that, it comes down to productivity, customer experience, and better data and insights. So on the productivity side, when people are handling customer conversations, there's naturally so many like searches and clicks and screens they have to go through to find information and update information and create cases and opportunities and kind of log details about that conversation. Tenfold's automating all of that so they can focus again just on the conversation at hand instead of kind of the manual administrative tasks around managing the conversation. The second would be around customer experience, which I tend to tie to employee experience. Again, if you make life easier for the employees, people aren't waiting on hold. You know who they are when they call in. You have context that helps you serve them. You're going to naturally deliver a better experience for customers. The ROI on that is massive, although it's a lot of times a little bit harder to quantify than the productivity side of things. But even in the example I used before, the company that we're working with saw an 8-figure annualized ROI just in productivity alone. Not to mention the customer experience piece. And then the third one, which is data and insights, right? So like, how do you as a business make decisions? Well, a lot of times people are doing it with incomplete or inconsistent data. And they're doing it manually with a ton of, analysts and people trying to sift through it to come up with insights. So automating that and making sure that the data is structured in Microsoft Dynamics and it's consistent and complete gives people that kind of single pane of glass in Dynamics to make operational decisions about their business. Like, do we have certain products that are causing too much time to be spent in our contact center for customer service calls and they're actually not profitable? Or, what kind of staffing do we need to have in the event of an outage on our platform based on what we've seen in the past? Like, these types of decisions they can now make directly from data that's being put into Dynamics, and then eventually layer AI and additional capabilities on top of that.
That's great, Dan. And it's a good segue because we got another great question from the audience. So Thomas Webster, thanks for entering a question. So what industry, so we're talking about all these great outcomes and the acceleration of it, where you see, what industries are you seeing the most impact?
So financial services would be the kind of largest footprint that we operate in today, thinking everything from retail banking to capital markets, like people that, were on trading floors selling stocks and hedge funds and ETFs, like they had to go home too. And figure out a way to work in that environment, right? So we work with one of the larger global investment banks to deliver an outcome like that. Retail and e-commerce has been huge. If you think about just the shift in COVID again, like look at, certain stocks and how they've performed over the last 6 to 9 months, like things are going remote. So, that e-com contact center experience has become kind of paramount for managing customer returns or telesales or questions and advice about certain products. So seeing a huge use case there. And then healthcare would be the other that, kind of given, again, a lot of, telehealth or people who normally would go into a doctor's office or talk to someone to ask for advice or get a prescription or so forth are now looking at other ways to communicate with their healthcare providers to manage those types of conversations.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing, Dan. Yeah, because I think it just that broad and wide impact. It's great stories across financial services, healthcare, e-commerce, retail, and many more that are impacted by either customer service or selling scenarios. So as we wrap this up, what are some of the things for people to learn more? We talked about AppSource being one, but what are other ways that people can learn more?
I mean, AppSource is easy, right? Because it's a single consolidated view. There's information on what we're building together. There's ways to get in touch with us if you want more information. You can look at demo videos or content and case studies from that single view. The other thing is, as Glenton mentioned, Microsoft and Tenfold have made a handful of kind of joint announcements over the past, call it 5 months. So there's quite a few press releases or blogs that have been put out by both companies. So would encourage people, if there's interest, to go take a look at just Tenfold Microsoft news. And there's good kind of stories about joint customer successes, as well as some of the product initiatives that we have going on together. And then the website on our side, obviously, as well. So if people have interest in learning more, you're welcome to come and find information you want on the website, or reach out to the team if there's kind of additional questions that don't get answered on the site.
Great. Thanks, Dan. And I also flashed up, because of course people are watching this on LinkedIn, of course, but I also flashed up your LinkedIn profile as well. So people, if they want to get connected with you digitally and virtually, I put your LinkedIn profile up as on the
awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Great. Well, to wrap this up, thank you so much. Well, I guess, Glenton, any closing thoughts before we wrap up the live session?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting, right? And more to come from our side. And so I would say continue to watch Tenfold and watch how we're working together. You'll see some really great momentum continue here that align with all the things that we've talked about over the last half hour. So thank you.
Yeah. Dan, any closing thoughts from your side?
We're honestly humbled by the partnership itself, and the opportunity to work with you guys on things like today, and to solve the types of things that we're solving for some of the largest companies in the world, like we are together. So appreciate the time, appreciate everyone who made the time to tune in, and likewise will make the time to watch the recording. And as Glenton said, excited to see a lot more coming out over the next several months between the teams.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dan and Glenton, for joining me on LinkedIn live session. Yeah. So again, there's a reminder for everyone. We try to do this every Monday, 8 o'clock. Repeat it around. So you're going to see other great ISVs or internal Microsoft people kind of share point of view stories around all things related. So for next week, a shout out on, we're actually going to talk about the opportunities with Teams. So
timely, right? Given what we're talking about, actually. Yeah. That's
right. Exactly. It's really timely, and because we've gotten a lot of questions from ISVs about, we're talking about biz apps. We're probably running on Azure, but what about modern workplace? What about the Teams?
Yeah, that's right.
Opportunity. So we're going to do that next week. But again, stay safe, everybody. Dan, thank you so much for taking time out of this hectic schedule of everything you're doing. I hope everything continues to turn out. It looks like it's sunny. It's not snowing.
Just glad it wasn't last week that we had this.
Right. So stay safe, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in, and thanks, Dan and Glenton, for making the time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers.
All right. Bye.
Bye.